All right, what is going on? Welcome, everybody. We are talking today about the housing market and whether or not we're seeing a shift right now, which, spoiler alert, I'm starting to see a little bit of a shift. And I'm excited to talk to my man, Derrick Evans, here with Align Mortgage, a VA specialist. A lot of you guys probably know him from Smarter San Diego, his YouTube channel. Derrick, welcome to the channel. Thanks for chatting with me today.
What's up, Dan? How you doing, brother?
Dude, I'm doing really good. And I'm excited to chat with you because it's very timely. We're at a time right now where, interest rates are up. The Fed is saying one thing. There's a lot of information and misinformation out there. And you and I are on the ground level experiencing this every single day. And it's going to be a really good conversation. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say because no one knows exactly what's happening right now. A lot of the data.
I do, Dan. I know exactly what's happening.
You know exactly what's happening. The problem for most people is data can be delayed in real estate. So a lot of the data that we're looking at is from March. And that's not very helpful when we're talking about, the changes that have happened in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So anyway, that's kind of my pitch.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, the delay in data definitely causes problems, but it also creates benefits that are just as good as the problems it creates. Okay. The only trouble is we've got mortgage rates right now. We're not to the end of the fourth month yet here of the year, and we're up almost 2% in the average mortgage rate. The start of the year was 3.11%, and as of the end of last week, which covered the previous week, was 5% exactly. So almost 2% higher on mortgage rates, but we haven't really seen it, slow down prices that much. I'm still getting no's. I got 3 or 4 no's today on offers that we wrote that were extremely strong. So, while it may have reduced the buyer pool a little bit, it certainly hasn't made a major impact on, prices. That's what everybody wants to talk about.
I agree. I'm seeing both ends of it. I have some offers I put in this last week where it's like maybe we got beat, but there was only one other offer on the table, whereas a month ago there would have been 3, 4, 5, 10 offers. And then I've also been in situations where we're just blown out. We didn't even get anywhere near the right offer. But the reality is the way that all this is working is, kind of what we're seeing is a lot of people are still in the market, or they're finally getting the houses that have been putting offers in for the last 2 to 3 months. So they were still like conditioned to, this is how the market's working. This is how we get offers accepted. At least that's kind of what I'm seeing on my end. I'm going to start off with, and you can answer that in 1 second. I know you want to answer that, but I also just wanted to pull up this one slide here because we're going to start off with the heavy hitter about the Fed economist warning of a U.S. housing bubble. And I want to get your thoughts on this, but tell me what you think about the current market.
Love it. This is from the Dallas Fed, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's that article that research originally came out from the Dallas Fed, I believe, a week or 2 ago. And I read every single word of that thing. And what was really interesting to me was that they were actually using indicators. So we had some technicals in there. And I went in and I was like, oh, great. Let's see if there's a correlation. We know that what happened in 2008 is pretty much impossible. It can never happen again, at least not for the same reasons. We could obviously have a housing crash again, but it would not be for the same reasons again, as we've learned.
And you have a great video explaining that in very good detail. So I highly recommend go back and look at a video. It was about a week ago that you did, and you actually wrote down the reasons. And yeah, just a little quick plug there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, no, it's a great video. I spent a lot of time on it. I want people to understand that. When I saw that article from the Dallas Fed and the guy who did the research, I always think it's good to see who are the people that are actually writing these articles. Doesn't have a history in real estate, doesn't have, what I mean? These bow tie guys like to write articles and do research, but they really don't understand the mechanics of how all these things work. And what was really interesting to me was that they were pointing out an indicator that they said, this one here is starting to heat up. And that was one that started to heat up when it last happened. It led to a housing crash. But if you actually draw those two, the indicator milestones up, it was 9 years before the crash. So the main indicator, the first one that they mentioned, I believe, or the second one that they mentioned in the article, was basically telling us that the market might crash in 9 years.
Yeah, it's nice going by the headlines because that's flashy. The main thing that I was reading in there is they're saying that housing prices are going up faster than inflation. And yeah,
Mm.
that's true. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I'm sure we can get into all the, simple supply and demand of what's going on. But
That's the
yeah,
thing that
that's
people have the hardest time understanding, honestly, is
yeah,
just the fallout from the crash was just a dramatic reduction in production of homes, and we are short millions and millions and millions of homes nationwide. I
yeah,
started figuring that out and realizing that when I started, because I look at real estate all over the country, and I like to buy real estate in Missouri, which is where I'm from. It's very easy for me to figure out what's a good deal there, and properties are going to make sense. So I like looking there, and it's going on there too. The inventory crisis is happening there. Prices going nutty, highest anyone's ever seen who's lived there and worked there in real estate forever. So how could that be? Middle of nowhere, Missouri, San Diego experiencing the same real estate climate. It's macro. It's bigger than what you realize. Like the upside, the real estate market has been crashing since COVID, crashing up. That's what's
yeah.
going on. We actually have a crash, but it's going up, not down. So what do you call a crash that goes up? I don't know, but I just call it a crash up. So we're crashing up, and it's because of the lack of supply versus the household formation. A lot of people forget when we crashed, what happened was a lot of people sold their homes who shouldn't have been home buyers anyway. They went back to live with mom and dad. They went back to renting with roommates. They kind of regressed significantly. And as the economy flourished over the next 10 years, those people became buyers again. And so we have reformation of households, millions and millions of them, at a much faster rate than the construction of new residences. And so we actually have a major housing crisis on our hands. And I don't see anything that solves that in the near future, Dan.
And the reality is here in San Diego and in California, there's so much red tape involved with building new homes. And there's so, especially here in San Diego, there's not a lot of places that you can build new homes. So the reality is we would see way down the pipeline, like if there's going to be a major new build here in San Diego, we're going to know about it at least 5 or 10 years before they're actually breaking ground or before these homes are actually going to become available. And we're just not seeing that. We're not seeing a lot down the pipeline. This graph here goes with what you were just saying, and I like the way that it's laid out on this one, where this is talking about the active listing inventory year over year in San Diego County, and going from top to bottom. Top, you have purple is 2019, green you have 2020, yet red is 2021, and then the orange on the bottom is 2022. And you can see very clearly this has been a seller's market this whole time. But yet we started with somewhere in the last, in the last 4 years, we started with somewhere around 7,000 homes, up near 8,000 homes. The year before that, I think we're up to 10, 12,000 homes. Now we're down below 2,000 homes, and we're starting to see signs of the inventory going up a little bit, which is great. But also keep in mind where we're starting. How low on this list, how low on this chart that we are starting. So we're still pretty far from it being a great market for buyers, but hopefully we're at least going to put ourselves in a situation where it's going to be a better market for buyers, which is what I think is what's happening.
Yeah, it just depends on how you look at that. If you look at a market where prices are going up pretty consistently, you could call that a seller's market, but only because sellers are getting paid to wait, and buyers are getting paid to get in sooner rather than later. And that's kind of what's been going on. And now we're starting to see those people. I'm getting those calls now. Hey, from people who bought a year or two ago going, can we do a cash out refi? Well, gosh, actually you can. I can't believe it, but yes, you can, because the value of your home has gone up so much. And that has been driven by, this lack of supply. But yeah, you would call it a seller's market because the seller is dictating terms. But really, the people who are winning in an upward and an appreciating market are the people who are buying and owning real estate, not the people who are getting rid of it.
I have never heard that twist on it, and I like it. That's pretty brilliant. Yeah, I mean, wow. Yeah, the amount of buyers that I've helped over the last couple of years that have, made you don't make the money unless you do a cash out refi or you sell your house. But the amount that their homes have increased in value is incredible. And I think you could probably, I'm guessing you would agree with me if I were to say that housing prices are not going to come down anytime soon.
It's just, I don't have a catalyst for it. I can't think of a reason why. I've been looking, I've been hunting, I've been searching for it. One of the big issues is that, we have a balanced market. And the way that you can tell that is at least from a sentiment perspective, there's just as many the real estate's going to crash videos as there are real estate's not going to crash videos, maybe even more crash videos. And when you have that many people bearish, it's just impossible to have a crash of anything. If you have so many people who believe that there's a crash coming, they will take action as such, right? And if they do that, then they're going to be participating in preventing the crash by being a buyer on the sidelines who is ready to pull the trigger down the road. So it's just one of those things where crashes really only happen when you don't expect them, when everyone's on the same side of the trade. Like in 2008, when everyone owned a home, there was nobody left to sell homes to. And then, we found out about all the fraud from Wall Street. That obviously made things get worse quickly. But, we don't have a setup like that. There isn't a setup in the marketplace like that right now. So until someone shows me where a tremendous amount of inventory is going to come from, I don't see us being able to call this the top. What this is most likely, Dan, is this is going to be a consolidation phase, which is simply a normalization phase. And it could take a while. It could take the whole year. It could take 2 years, where we just kind of bounce back and forth around in this price range, this price per square foot, the 650 to 700 a square foot on both attached and detached. We could just bounce around in there for a couple of years as we renormalize. This is what it costs to buy a house in San Diego. And then when we get on the other side of inflation and mortgage bonds become interesting again to investors, which they very well may, even while we're in the midst of inflation, if rates keep going up. Whenever that happens, now you're going to see mortgage rates go down, and you're going to see the whole thing start again, and we'll level higher again from there. But I can pretty much guarantee you one thing: the real estate market is not going to crash. That I can tell you.
Yeah, we're both on the same page with that for sure. And you said something that I hear over and over again from the people I trust most on the lending side of things, which makes me believe that it's probably going to be true, is that we're going to be back down to historic interest rates before you know it. In the next 1, 2, 3 years, we're going to be back down to 3% or near 3%, which makes me think if you are considering buying a house and you're so concerned about the interest rates, more than likely you're going to be in a scenario where you can refinance in the next couple of years. It's not a guarantee, but I think that is very, very likely, because I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know all the reasons why, but I think that it's very likely going to happen based on what I'm hearing.
Well, I can tell you have good instincts. I know the reasons. So the reason is, long story short, interest rates are tied to the debt that our country owes, which is a tremendous amount, trillions and trillions, tens of trillions. So if we have to make the payments on that debt and it's based on what the rates are, we need lower rates. The country needs low rates so they can service the debt, which we are having a hard time servicing. You see it come up, was it every year, every 2 years? Congress almost shuts everything down because they have to pass, special legislation to extend the budget to pay for everything. So, and they don't want to have to do that. These are powerful people who have to go, get together and ask for permission. They don't like that. So they're going to want to keep rates low, which means all the policies and all the decisions that are made and all the people who are put in the right chairs are going to be people who want lower rates, because it's going to be necessary for the government to be able to function and pay its debt. So long term, there's a huge interest in the United States government, to keep rates down. You can count on that working long term. Now, in the short run, we have an inflation bad guy in the room that has to get taken out. And so they're going to have to forego their concerns about making payments and worry about inflation before it gets out of control. Inflation's like a fire. You need to put it out soon. The sooner, the better. The longer you wait, the bigger the fire is. So they are going in and trying to put that sucker out right now. And so far, we haven't seen a lot of fruit from that effort, but I do think it's coming. I think a lot is already priced in the market. And so I don't think interest rates have topped out, but I do think we're going to start rounding out here, with probably topping in the sixes. My guess is 6.5% before the end of the year is going to be the top.
And the effect that has on someone buying a median home here in San Diego, if you're getting, if you're putting 20% down and you're buying at that point, I mean, $1 million home, you're talking over $1,000 a month on your mortgage. I mean, it's pretty incredible how much of an effect. It doesn't sound like that much, right? From 3 to 6%, like they're small numbers, right? But then when you actually calculate how much of an effect that has, it's pretty crazy. Now, can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Did you anticipate interest rates getting as high as they are now at the very beginning of the year, when we were hearing that the Fed was going to increase interest rates?
Yeah, yeah, we were expecting it. So I've been basically screaming from the rooftops. There are so many people who missed out on refinancing. It's truly sad.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. All I can do is inform people they have to take action whenever they're ready. So we knew the rates would go up. We had no idea how high or how quickly until we started to see some of the actual market action. And I really didn't make a prediction until a few weeks ago about 6.5% being the end. And part of the reason I believe that is chart formations and mortgage-backed securities, but also just investor sentiment. Internationally, when you think about international investors, international money funds, hedge funds, these are the types of investors who would put a portion of their portfolio in something like mortgage bonds. Now, if you can get 4, 5, 6% on these are high quality mortgage bonds. These aren't the junk bonds where people are getting 100% financing, with a 620 credit score. These
Yeah.
are people who are putting money down, getting DU, their Fannie Mae mortgages. If you can get 4, 5, 6% return on a Fannie Mae mortgage, yeah, there's going to be demand for that. Right now, though, I think those buyers are staying out of the way until they know what the Fed's going to do with their sell side, because the Fed has basically said, who owns trillions of these bonds, they've said we're going to sell. We need to get rid of these. We need to get them off the books. So if that's the case, the big buyers are going to wait until they see what the Fed does, and the Fed starts unloading. That will be the liquidity that they're going to be looking for to go ahead and come in and make big purchases. Because see, big buyers don't want to run the price up on themselves, so they look for a big seller to come into the market so they can scoop up and keep prices relatively steady, kind of fly under the radar and pick up big quantities of these things. So I think the Fed's exit is going to be liquidity for international hedge fund money funds to pick up these bonds. And my guess is that happens somewhere around average mortgage rate of 6.5%.
Okay. And any idea on what you think the timeline on that looks like?
I hope that it happens between now and the first quarter of next year. And it's probably going to be fourth quarter this year, first quarter next year is when we really probably top out on mortgage rates. But what's interesting was, do you ever check out Meet Kevin here on YouTube?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
So one of the
And for
things here,
California.
yeah. So he's an interesting guy, but
Yeah.
I follow him on Twitter, and he was tweeting something out about the Fed's predictions for the future of mortgage rates, and that mortgage rates by 2023 will be 8.5%, something like that is what the Fed said. Here's what you can't do. You can't trust the Fed and their predictions. Okay. Their modeling for predicting the future and taking action to correct it has been proven to be terrible. The only thing we can rely on from the Fed is past data. So I use their past data a lot, looking at average home prices, average interest rates, that you can trust, and what their actions are going to be. They'll tell you what they're going to do. Hey, we're going to sell here. We're going to buy this. We're going to stop doing that. We're going to raise rates. You can kind of, 95% trust that, but you cannot trust their predictions about future macroeconomics, even though you think you should be able to. You simply cannot do that. They are not taking everything into account. They are just bow tie guys. They are just analysts. They don't know the market. They don't understand all the dynamics. It's a shame, but it's just a fact.
All right, well, let's pull this back to the buyer. Let's talk about this market real quick. So this is something that I saw the other day, that mortgage demand plummets 41% due to the rising rates. So there's no doubt there's less demand for people applying for mortgages. What type of an effect do you think that this is going to have on the market? And when are we going to start to see changes? Are we going to?
Did that article break down how much was refinance versus purchase demand? That would be my big question, because
That's a good question.
It's refinance demand is what it is. So what they're looking at is just total number of applications. Well, when rates have gone up 2% in 4 months, refinance applications are getting pretty thin,
Sure.
Whereas for years and years and years, they have been posting big numbers because you have 2 something, 3 something percent. A lot of people can work that, Now it does. I still have people calling me every day going, "Hey, we want to take cash out 100,000." I'm like, "Okay, well, you have 2.75. So I don't think I'm going to be your guy. You're going to have to take the HELOC from your bank and sort it out that way." So that stuff's still going on, but those mortgage applications that would have been on those cash out refis and a lot of those potential rate and term refis, they're just not happening. So that's where the decrease in demand is. The purchase stuff, my perspective is that we have less applications on the purchase side coming in. We have a pretty normal mix from like highly qualified to probably doesn't qualify. So I haven't seen a tremendous difference there. But what I have seen, Dan, what I have seen is I have seen less interested parties. Let's call it less referrals, less people reaching out to say, hey, we're interested in buying a home. What do we do? What's the first step? Where do we go? I have seen a decrease in that. And I
I
think
have
that is,
totally, yeah.
expected based on where
Yeah.
we're at in the marketplace.
And I think it's safe to say it's not even just interest rates. Obviously that has an effect on everything, but also the news is nonstop blasting us with where there's a bubble, there's a housing bubble, and it's not a good time to buy a home. I mean, I was looking for different articles I could pull up, and I have an endless supply of articles that are fear mongering that the housing market's going to crash and that we're in a bubble. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. The interest rates are up, and then people are just worried that, hey, maybe this isn't a good time to buy. But I think, man, I just have such a hard time thinking, like you said, from a macro level, but also on a micro level here in San Diego, that prices are going to come down anytime soon. Maybe a little bit of a dip, but like a crash, like you're saying, no way. It's just, what is going to be the catalyst for the increase of inventory when we are so short on homes? I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know that anyone knows what that's going to be.
I don't have it, but I can tell you this for sure. A lot of those articles you're seeing that look like they're editorial, they're advertorial. I know this because I was an executive at the UT here in San Diego for quite some time. I've been in the media industry for a long time. And you know what? A lot of these articles, they're advertorial. And so who would want to spread fear about real estate? Who would want to tell you not to buy real estate? The people who want to buy it, right? It's the old joke about surfing, right? Don't try it. It sucks. That's what hardcore surfers will tell you. They're like, surfing sucks. Don't do it. They just don't want you in the water. That's what those articles are. It's huge funds. Blackrock. There's another guy on YouTube who's out of Arizona. I forget his name right now. He's crushing the research on all of the stuff that's happened in Arizona with these huge funds that are buying real estate there and doing it under the radar and buying it cash, and they beat everyone out, and they have this whole system, and he has it all figured out. A lot of these big funds, instead of buying mortgage bonds, which would be the old way to get cash for mortgage exposure, they're just buying houses and putting up property management setups and getting the money and the appreciation and the tax benefits themselves. Who wants to own a bond, a piece of paper, when you have inflation, when you can get the thing that the bond represents, which is an asset that is a great hedge for inflation and has tax benefits? I mean, the one thing is big money has figured out it makes no sense to go for mortgage paper when you can own houses, and they don't want you to buy it because they want it. That's what's going on.
That's pretty deep there. I like that. And I can tell you, I'm actively looking for investments, real estate investments right now. I know a lot of people are actively looking for real estate to invest in right now. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, what we're seeing and what we anticipate happening over the next couple of months and the next couple of years is very different from the headlines that we're seeing. I also think that, people just like clickbait. They're trying to get people to read these articles and what works better than clickbait? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and people are gullible. So that happens.
People love it. There's so many people who want to crash just so they can be right for no other reason. And it's people follow the news that they want to hear without really knowing how to decipher it. Having been in the news industry, having gone to journalism school, I have a little bit of training on headline writing versus content writing, and how that all differentiates. The people who write the headlines are not the people who write the articles. They're two different people, two different departments. They're totally different. So you got to understand that when you read an article, when you read a headline, you cannot trust it. You must read the content. You must read it to fruition, because a lot of times they'll front load it with a headline that says something, and then all the bad information that corroborates that up front, and then towards the end they go, but he also did say that it probably wasn't a big deal, and they'll put that at the very end. So you have to read the whole thing to really understand what's going on. And when it comes to like crash videos and the market crashing, and the people who are behind that, who really want you to think that, are all the people who want to buy the real estate. And it's enormous funds, and it's happening right now, and it's been happening for some time, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. They want to own all of the homes. They don't want you to ever be able to own a home. They want you to pay rent and raise the rent 4% every year and have that be that. So, best thing that anyone can do, not just buying a house for yourself, but think about for your kids, think about for your grandkids. What if I'm right and they just cannot buy a house? It's not possible. Could be, right? It's look at the price of real estate over time. Go back as far as you want. Go back to the 1500s, the 1600s. It doesn't matter. The graph is the same. It looks like the backside of Everest. It just goes up and to the right. A few undulations here and there, but up and to the right is the direction. So if that continues for a few more generations, who's going to be able to buy a house? You're going to have to already have one. And so that's why I encourage people to make sure you own your own primary home. You don't need to buy tons of properties. Not everybody has to be a real estate mogul. Own your own primary home and own a home that you can plan to give to your kids should it be necessary.
Do you think we've already gotten to a point in San Diego where it's basically impossible for a first-time home buyer?
It's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult. And really, if you track the San Francisco market, I tracked for a long time, and like 10 years ago, I'd say maybe 15 years ago. So this was before the crash. So let's call it 15 years ago. Only rich people can buy houses there. You have to be rich. And that same trend is happening. The exact same thing is happening in San Diego. In 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you will have to be rich to buy a house here. You won't be. I mean, when was the last time you sold a house to a firefighter or, a police officer or a teacher? They have to have someone else who is making a big income. Like, you don't just sell houses to teachers anymore. It's not possible. So it's self-employed people. It's people who, work big W-2 jobs at Qualcomm or whatever. Soon it will just be the wealthy who will own the real estate. That's it. And so I really think it's important for everyone to make sure that if you don't own real estate, you have to have a real estate strategy so that you know what your path looks like to get there.
Yeah, that's such a big point. I can tell you 2 years ago, majority of my buyers were VA. I was doing a lot of that type of business, and it's tough now when I have someone reach out because we have a huge military presence here in San Diego. Navy's the #1 employer in the city of San Diego, I believe. And it's just tough. You get people relocating here, PCSing here, wanting to purchase a home for their family. And you can get your foot in. It's really difficult. You have to have a plan in place. And like you said, you probably have to have some family money, some money from a sale of another home, another family member that's making good money. I don't know what the solution is, but it's definitely, it's tough. It's tough. Figure something out. And there are still places in San Diego where you can find cheaper homes, or maybe you have to go the condo or the townhouse route. But even still, that is fairly limited in San Diego.
Yeah. Everything's really limited, right? So that's what the real estate strategy process is for me, in my opinion, is figuring out what are our options. Do we have a rich aunt or uncle or grandparent or someone who would give us a gift for down payment to help do an appraisal gap or do something to make our offer stronger? What do we have, that we can lean on? How can we improve our status? I mean, we're in I was just right before I came on here, we're in a bidding war. I have my buyer's VA. The other buyers that they're considering are VA as well. It's like a 3-2 townhome in Bonsall. 565 is what we're looking at approximately. It's a great deal, in my opinion. Beautiful complex, 2-car garage. And so, we're competing, and it's just, you need lots of things. I mean, you're waiving the appraisal for sure. The other one we're competing with is downtown in Metro. That one I was right before that. And, they asked us to remove the appraisal contingency, the loan contingency, removing everything. So, what people are trying to figure out is this a sign of the top or a sign of the times? And I believe it is the sign of the times, and the top isn't really close.
That's very good perspective. And I know you are short on time, but maybe you can answer Kyle's question here real quick.
Sure.
In your perspective, how many of the San Diego buyers are from San Francisco in the Bay Area?
There's no question that there's a lot of them. Remote working has been something. Also, the fact that San Francisco has become a dump, that also has become, is a reason why a lot of people are coming here from their tech jobs. They can work remotely, but it's happening from all over the country. And this is one of the things I predicted when COVID began. I actually did a debate with a guy, David Serpa, who's out of Murrieta. and he was talking about how the market's going to crash, and I was telling him, I don't think so. Maybe let's see, and so it turns out I was right. Sorry, David. But the reality is that we have people who can they want to live in the home they want to live in.
Yep.
And they're not as worried, not as concerned about commutes, not as people are getting permission from their workplaces. I have a lady who's coming here from South Carolina. She didn't work remotely, but she talked to her employers like, I could work remotely, right? Got permission to do so. She moved to San Diego,
Yep.
So those things that they're not on any of the economists' radar. They're not on. You have to be in it. You have to be on the ground level to see those things building up. And 2 years from now, some bow tie guy will tell us about all the people who migrated, and we'll be like, yeah, dude, that's been going on forever. What are you talking about? Yeah. The market already moved because of that. They're too late with that info. So what you're talking about, what Kyle's asking about, that's happening. It's been happening since COVID. It's going to continue to happen because San Diego is the sweetest place, man. I've been all over the world, and never once, not one time in all the places I've been, have I ever been like, oh man, going back home. No, I'm always excited to come back to San Diego. And that's how you're living right.
See, that's why I have this right up here. You live your best life here in San Diego. I think that's the best way to end it. Derrick, thanks so much for being on. I have your channel in the description down below. Make sure to subscribe because you put up multiple videos a week. You are extremely knowledgeable. You know exactly what you're talking about, and you're just a fun guy to talk to. So thanks for being on. Let's do it again sometime.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.